Good evening, short story writers. Just kind of wearing my James Bond baddie, villain, whatever, hairdo. Just out of the bath, so it's still wet. It has to behave itself when it's wet because not even my hair, my gravity-defying hair, can defy gravity when it's wet and slicked down like this. So there you go. Yeah, back with load of old rubbish theme for story prompts, fiction writing prompts. I said yesterday, I hinted I was going to go with polythene bags because I just taken some potatoes out of one, and on the back it says not yet recycled or not currently recycled. One, why not? Two, it says yet, so obviously they can be recycled. Why aren't we recycling them? And three, and this is part of the prompt, okay? Come up with answers to these. Write about it. Write a story about somebody who's frustrated and decides to do something as a protest, or they are driven to protest when they've had to put it in the ordinary rubbish rather than the recycling, which is out of sight, out of mind. And maybe a tragedy happens because somebody decides to play with it. I know I did as not a baby, but I was quite about 6 or 7. I thought, oh, I've heard about putting bags over my head. Let's see if it is as fatal as they say. Fortunately, at the presence of mind to think, what's my escape route? If so, it didn't occur to me that just sticking a finger through my mouth might enable me to breathe. But I mean, obviously, I'm still alive. But I remember thinking, God, this is scary. This is so scary. And there's that scene in the life of David Gale where he gets executed, and I'm thinking, and they use this as torture in some countries. My good grief, what horrible people. So anyway, right, so that's one thing. Yeah, why is it not yet recycled? What is the technology that we clearly is available but we're not using? Why not? Why not? Second point, what substitute could they be using? Why do we have to have all our vegetables in plastic bags? They could use like the lemon nets and the onion nets. Why can't they use those for? And there's a lot less plastic there. If they can make it out of plastic, they can make those nets out of cotton or something as well. Some sort of recycled spin like H&M do. You need to see H&M's little video on what they do with your textiles when you take them back, and they give you 15% off your next purchase if it's over £30 or $30 or whatever. He said, getting sidetracked. So there's another story idea for you. Sci-fi, maybe even fantasy. I don't know, maybe thriller. Somebody's trying to shortchange the public because, I mean, the real reason we have to use so much polythene is because it's a side effect of gasoline stroke petrol stroke gasoline. The thing that you use to run your cars and to deliver these plastic bags to you, it's a side product of it. I mean, it's kind of ironic really, because, well, the irony is there. You're the writer, fathom it out. But the other thing you can use plastic bags for is the craze was at one time getting a plastic bag and scrunching it up and dipping it in paint and dabbing it all over the wall. But also mural artists could use it, and people doing small canvases. It could be part of an art therapy project within your story. And then that could be somebody deciding they want to do this for the rest of their life. So they either A, give up their job, and despite opposition from their family and friends, etc., they go into teaching, they go into being an art therapist in a hospital and help someone out. They go and they decide that they're going to teach it in another part of the world. And in the fantasy situation, the art that they help, or maybe they are in another part of the world. Why not? They see a YouTube video. I mean, the world is much smaller now. They see this on a YouTube video, and that causes an art explosion in their country, and that draws in tourists and travelers. And just as several countries have become cool in the last 20, 25 years, that before nobody had ever even heard about them. So this particular country, also a small island or whatever, it becomes a big sort of esteem generator, and that helps sort of raise the level of respect in the world for other nations, which can only be a good thing. So plastic bags lead to art, lead to respect. A plastic bag could also be used, obviously recycled, to hold things in that you don't want to get wet in a journey, in a fantasy, or I always forget the other one, horror, fantasy and horror story, or in a thriller. Yeah, you've got to go swimming and you've got to keep something dry. Well, you wrap it up in a recycled plastic bag that you got out of a bin, shove it in your somewhere where it's gonna not get quite so wet, and then you start swimming. Maybe you've got to go deep diving and hold your breath. That's always a good one in stories. Right, 6:04. I've got another minute to think up some stuff. You see something printed on or your character obviously sees something printed on the bag which raises an eyebrow, and further investigation leads to skullduggery. Or it leads to, in science fiction, an alternative, well, why are we doing it this way when this would be so much quicker? And then Lorenzo's oil or Edison's style, the person sets out to find a bigger, faster solution, the better mousetrap syndrome. Obviously in thriller actions, plastic bags, again, like I hinted at the beginning, can be used for very unpleasant purposes. The least unpleasant of which would be gagging someone so they don't make any noise. What else can you do with plastic bags? I saw somebody got all these plastic bags. They'd ironed them all together, and they'd done two things. One, they made a big, fantastic sort of banner to protest against recycling of plastic bags. This was back about 15 years ago. But the other thing is somebody else was doing, and this was a brilliant idea, they're getting all the plastic bags out of the landfill, and they were doing that, sealing them together with an iron, and they were making blankets for the homeless, handing them out to people sleeping on the streets. So there's a lot of things you can do with plastic bags. You can start with 50 ways to recycle a plastic bag, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on this, I'm sure. And then you begin your story from there. What problem is it solving? Then that would give you the initial problem. What problem would this solve? Then you start with that initial problem, and then your main character goes through. Okay, I've got 10 seconds to get off before YouTube tries to monetize this thing. So, as usual, this one, if it was useful, that one, if it was terrible, and happy writing.